Why does he have another hearing on Friday the 13th? Great question. I was wondering that myself today, but now I've got the answer. This hearing on Friday the 13th has been on the schedule for quite some time, but when we were in court on the 5th, it was actually canceled. And that's because they needed to have another hearing in order to pick the trial date because prosecution and defense couldn't come to an agreement. So the judge saw that they had something scheduled on the 13th, but they couldn't do this new motion on the 13th. So they said, you know what, let's just move everything to the 16th. And that was where we left it. But people have been noticing that that hearing on the 13th is still on the docket. So you can see that it's been updated with the grand jury hearing being withdrawn, which is why we're in court on the 5th. But pretrial motion on the 13th at 9 a.m. is still there in addition to the motion on the 16th. We did already have a discovery motion, but this to compel Brady motion is new. So this is why I think we're having two hearings on the 13th and the 16th. The Brady rule basically means that the prosecution has to hand over any exculpatory evidence to the defense. Exculpatory evidence means evidence that could potentially prove the defendant's innocence. So what it looks like here is that the defense believes that the prosecution has some exculpatory evidence and they are trying to compel the prosecution to hand it over sooner rather than later. And this is backed up by an article in the Prince William Times. They are asking the prosecution to turn over evidence that may show Naresh Bhatt was not with his wife when she disappeared. Remember, we've talked about the video footage of Mamta that was taken on July 27th when she was leaving work, and she got into an unknown black four-door sedan driven by an unknown subject around 8:17 p.m., but her Uber ride had been canceled. So who is it? Obviously, Naresh's attorneys want that video footage and any information that the prosecution may have on who was driving that vehicle, along with all of her cell phone data and all the GPS data in police possession. Because we know that the prosecution has had Naresh and Mamta's cell phone data for a while now, and so of course the defense needs to see that as well. And I'm actually a little surprised that they haven't seen it yet. Now this next part down here says Naresh Bhatt needs to explore and figure out where Mamta went on various days leading up to her disappearance, as it could show that Mr. Bhatt was in fact not with her when she went missing. Finding the driver of the vehicle that picked up Mamta Bhatt is also vitally important, as they might have information that would lead us to the discovery of where Mamta is and has been. And then down here it says that Naresh will return to court on the motion on Friday, September the 13th at 9 a.m. So here's what I find so interesting about the way this is worded. The way they wrote the motion, and Ben Alverham, like I have said before, Naresh's attorney with the Public Defender's Office, seems like an excellent lawyer. And he worded this in a way that made it sound as though they are trying to find the person who picked Mamta up on the 27th, because they're saying, well, I mean, that could be the person responsible for her disappearance. Maybe this is somebody she ran off with, or maybe this is, an alternate suspect if you do believe that she's not alive. But what I think this really comes down to is the Tesla data. After they performed those searches on Thursday, in various parts of Manassas and Manassas Park, it became pretty clear to everybody that Tesla came back with the data that Manassas Park police had asked for. And what I think Naresh's defense really wants to know is how screwed Naresh is based on that data. Listen, they've got a right to see it regardless. The Tesla data 100% should be turned over to the defense because of our evidentiary rules, because of Brady. So, whatever, regardless of their intentions, regardless of their defense, their plans, et cetera, they need to see that data. But I think that's what it really is, and what they're trying to do, because public opinion has been so against Naresh since his arrest. I think they're trying to put a seed of doubt in the public's minds as to who is responsible for Mamta's disappearance. When in reality, I think what they're really trying to do is see how badly Naresh screwed up by driving the Tesla around. That last part is just my take on it. Again, I don't know, but I will be at the courthouse on Friday morning, the 13th at 9 a.m., and I'll schedule a live afterwards.